I think it varied each shift, but you know, on the ward where people that was on the second time was with lots of physical disabilities and needed a lot of personal care. The minimum was 3. You could have 3 staff on, so therefore that's 3 to probably 26, 27 people. In the rehabilitation, the difference was that there was 4 people living there, and every early shift and every late shift had 2 members of staff on each shift, and then 1 person slept in the house. So that was a big difference. And those staffing, we also, it was multidisciplinary work in the rehabilitation. We had 1 member of staff on who was classed as either a nurse or a care assistant, and at the time we had an occupational therapy assistant working with us. It was a new venture that we were working together, which was new. But on the wards, it was just literally, there was always 1 member of qualified staff on, and then there was usually 2 assistants. If we got more than that, then we thought we were lucky. We had 4 members of staff. And if you think about what I explained, that we had a female side and a male side, is that, you know, when you're getting everybody up in the morning, we were 2 staff down the female side because there were more females than there were males. So therefore, the 1 member of staff was working down the male side by themselves. So we were doing all the getting everybody up and everything by yourself. So therefore, if a second person, if you had 4 people on, you could have 2 people down each side, which was good at that time.
And you say now also sometimes there's residents and that service users' behaviour could be challenging. Like, in what ways did it sometimes get challenging, and when they were being challenging, how did the staff deal with them, and what effect did being on the staff have towards that?
Up to that point in my career, I'd worked on a ward at Meanwood where people were very challenging. There's some ladies who were very challenging, as in attacking and hurting people and hurting themselves. And when I was at Meanwood in 1980, we had rooms which were classed as side rooms, and they had metal panelling down the inside of the door, and the room had nothing in it apart from a mattress. And if people were becoming very, very challenging, that was my second ward at Meanwood, and we people sometimes were put in like what was called a strong suit to stop them physically hurting themselves. They weren't restricted in what but the suit themselves couldn't be ripped off or couldn't be damaged, because a lot of people used to rip all the clothes off all the time.
So were these strong suits basically just like reinforce them?
Yes, so that you couldn't take your clothes off and damage yourself really. But that I have to say, when at the time at Meanwood they tailed out, is that it was classed as a restriction and you shouldn't do it. People used a lot of medical medicines as what was called as required to calm people down.
Or like sedatives?
Like a sedative. They were prescribed those by the psychiatrist. So if people became very challenging, they could be given some medication. At Westwood, the wards I worked on at Westwood, the challenges were people trying to hurt themselves, or people who used to put the fingers down the throats and make themselves sick. We used to have a lady who was challenging us that she wouldn't sit long enough to eat, and she was losing weight. So it was agreed that she could be sat in a wheelchair and the belt fastened, so that she would eat the meals, and then as soon as she'd eaten the meals, she was allowed to get out of the wheelchair. But that nowadays that would be classed as a restriction. But it was done to try and encourage her to eat because she was losing weight. But nowadays it wasn't her wheelchair. It wasn't, she wasn't assessed as needing a wheelchair, and to fasten a belt on somebody and restrict their movements is classed as a restriction. So at the time, but I didn't work with people with very challenging behaviour up until that time in my job, my time at Westwood.
And you said also, when with regards to challenging behaviour, how now the legislation's changed, so that you say now staff are allowed to do anything that's too restrictive when they get challenging. So what other ways has it changed like how you deal with them when they're challenging? In what ways?
Well, we started working as in a multidisciplinary. We had a lot more contact as time developed, working with psychologists, working with the psychiatrists, working on cognitive behaviour therapies, working on behaviour modification, as it was called at the time, modifying people's behaviour, care plans, everybody doing the same consistency. We worked with more people, and therefore we got more knowledge and more experience, I think, is how it developed. Because we had to do that.